All right, welcome back. It's been a while, probably about 3 months, for two reasons. One, I've been busy doing other stuff, and secondly, there hasn't really been much happening forestry wise. The tree planting grant is rumbling along still, probably still a few months away. Hopefully we're going to get it by this autumn, because we really want to plant the trees this autumn. And that's been pretty much it. So I didn't think there was really much point making any videos, to be honest. But today I've come on this really sunny day to do some bracken control work, or at least have a go at starting it. So we got in some of the fields we got maybe 1 or 2 hectares of bracken, and bracken is not something that you really want when you're trying to establish new woodland. It crowds out the young trees. The main reason seems to be to do with light. So the trees we're going to plant are probably roughly 1/2 meter high. Bracken, especially here, it grows probably average 1 to 1.5 meters high, and it grows really densely. So we need to kind of control that, so to give the trees a good kind of head start. Oh, just something strange on the floor. For those of you who don't know what bracken is, it's a type of fern. It got some, well, I'll get to some in a minute. It grows in woodland, and it grows in fields on pretty mixed kind of places, to be honest. And in fields it generally grows pretty dense, which is what we've got here. And kind of more traditionally, if this land probably had cattle on at some point, and the cattle with stomping around, they helped there we are, hang on a sec, here's some bracken. See, it's just starting to grow here in the woodland. But yeah, so the cattle, when they're walking around, they would kind of break up the bracken, and it kind of keeps it under control. Whereas only having sheep on the land, they don't really have the same effect, and neither cows or sheep eat bracken, so it kind of gets a bit out of control, shall we say. Whereas pigs do eat bracken. I think they churn up the ground and eat the rhizomes. So I've got some more bracken here. So these are the bracken fronds, and under the ground are the rhizomes. So the rhizomes are always under the ground, so it's the same plant that comes up each year. It's not like the seeds are regrowing year on year like on other types of plants. So the rhizome roots are the thing that power the plant, and the way you kind of, there's a few ways you can control bracken, but the way I'm going to be doing today, it's you basically want to damage the bracken. So you either like cut the bracken off here, or you can just like, if you just squash it like that, this is controlling it. So what happens is each year the rhizome sends up the frond, and then in the autumn, when the bracken's dying, the goodness from the frond goes back into the rhizome, and that helps it power up for the next year. So if we cut the frond, then that goodness isn't going back into the ground. And what seems to be the most effective with bracken control is cutting it twice. So if we cut it now, it's quite early, it's June, and if we cut it now and damage it now, the rhizomes under the ground, they'll send up new fronds. So it's kind of depleting the stores of energy in the rhizome. So it's sending up 2 fronds in the year instead of just 1. So next year what happens is the rhizome's got less energy underneath, and that means the bracken should be less kind of dense, less severe next year. So hopefully it will grow less high, it'll be less dense, and that means there's more light for the trees that we're going to plant. That's the theory anyway. And what the best thing to do is we'll damage it, cut it now, and then we'll come back in August when the new fronds are grown up, and we'll do it again. So there's 2 ways we can do it. I'm gonna try a couple of ways today, like kind of what would you say, like manual hand methods. So I'm going to try whipping it. So I've got some sticks here. So at this time of year, the bracken fronds are quite, how do you describe it, supple. So they're quite easy to kind of whip with the stick. That's what I'm going to do, whip them. Whereas later in the season, if you just leave these fronds now, they'll get quite hard, and it's not possible to do that. And then the other way you can do it is to basically crush the bracken. So this is what you would do if you had machinery, which we probably will end up doing, because I mean we've got so much of it. And with machinery, you're basically having a tractor or a quad bike, and oh, maybe I'm not standing in a good place for the sun. You got a quad bike or a tractor, and then you're basically pulling something along the behind it, which is basically crushing the bracken fronds. So you can actually buy a roller designed specifically for crushing bracken, or as the farmer who has sheep on the land here has been telling us, he just ties an old gate to the back of his quad bike, and then he just pulls that around, and that does the similar sort of job with kind of crushing it. So that's probably what we're going to end up trying. So what my plan is today, so this area bracken and this area bracken, this side of the gorse, you see there's like a track. So this side of that track up here, we're going to plant mainly productive trees, and on the other side of the track where the other bracken is over there, that's mainly our native areas. So just to clarify, we are planting a lot of native trees in our productive areas, but when I'm talking about native areas here, it's the grant system calls native areas, and that's areas which are like a lower density. The trees that we're going to be planting, they're more suited for this environment, and that's what would kind of grow more naturally here. And it's not trees that we're going to be focusing on producing like good quality timber. It's more for the environmental biodiversity benefits, whereas on this side it's more focused on trying to grow really straight trees and good for timber. So that's kind of the two differences between the native and the productive areas. And then we have another area of bracken much higher up on top of the hill, which is also a native area. So in the native areas, we're planting 1,000 trees per hectare about, and in this area, in the productive areas, we're planting 3,000 a hectare. So it's going to make more of a difference if we control the bracken in this area than that area, because let's say we don't get around to controlling the bracken over there and we plant the trees, we'd have to come in next year when we planted the trees in the autumn, come back next year when the bracken starts growing, and cut the bracken from around each tree to make sure there's enough light for each tree, which is obviously quite a lot of work. But for 1,000, if it's 1,000 a hectare over there and 3,000 a hectare here, then the work required where it's 3,000 hectare is a lot more for the same area. So that's what my thinking is in terms of focusing on this area to begin with. And is there anything else I can say? One random fact: apparently bracken, you can eat these young fronds if you cook them properly. Not quite sure what that means, but generally bracken is seen as a carcinogenic. So supposedly in the autumn the bracken has spores on, so that's the kind of seeds that they have, and the spores are thought to be carcinogenic, which basically means they could cause cancer. So if you breathe in a lot of the spores of bracken, that's probably not a good thing to do. But in the spring, apparently you can eat it, but I'm not going to try because I'm not 100% sure. Right, so I'm going to set this up somewhere, and then we can just trying to work out where the best place to set up is. Okay, so I tried demonstrating how I was going to whip the bracken, but I did a pretty terrible job of filming it. So I've come back on another day, and I can demonstrate now. So this is the bracken here. This is the bamboo stick I've got, and then you just basically just whip it, and it breaks pretty easily. And this sort of age that you can see now, it's pretty much the perfect time, because when these leaf branches get too long, it's a lot harder to whip. Basically, you need to better get the stems, and also when it's more mature, the stem is more woody. At the moment, it's pretty green and easy to break. All right, I've finished, and yeah, let's go and have a look around. I've been taking about 2 hours to do basically up to the gorse bush up here, across to that gorse bush over there, and then everything in front of that gorse bush. So potentially I think maybe 20 meters to that gorse bush, let's say 40 meters over there, so maybe 800 square meters I've done. I'll measure it later on a map. Actually worked that out. So it kind of started all right, this area here, and up higher up there, the not many, I don't know, it's not really branches, but not many of like these, from these bits coming off the side of the main stalk could come out, and so it actually made it quite easy just to go around, and like we've got one here, it kind of broke off quite easily like this. But it seemed like the more leaf branches down the main stem there were, the harder it was. It was like it was a bit older, it had become a bit more woody. So this area down here, actually lower down on the edge of the bracken area, was actually harder, and actually I ended up like trampling it in the end more to try and damage it, bruise it. So just because it was just taking too long to, like, it was almost impossible to whip it. But yeah, if we go a bit higher up, so you can see here, it's like generally like 40 centimeters off the ground. Is kind of where I was able to break it down to. I don't know whether this is the most effective thing, but we can kind of a bit of an experiment, see what happens, come back in like a month's time. And it was easier to work up the slope because I could like see what I was doing more, and you can see obviously I've missed a few, but it was easier to see ones that you'd missed, especially because some of them are still like quite small, they're not all the same age, so it was easier to see them walking up. But I would say the main thing I got out of it was we don't really want to do this for the whole area that we've got bracken. I think it's just going to take too long. I think getting some sort of tractor or quad bike is going to be the best solution. I think maybe on the steeper sections where it might not be possible to drive it very safely, but generally it's going to be a lot better to get something we can with some kind of machinery to do it, because it's just going to take too long otherwise. And also, like I said, I mean at the moment this is similar to it was over here, but if it come back in a couple of weeks, I think it's just going to be too mature to really whip properly. Oh, and the other thing was, after about 40 minutes I realized I was getting blisters on my hands here, so I then had to change to my left hand. Wasn't so easy. I had to put a glove on it, and meant that hand's not nearly as bad. So hopefully that's not recovers all right. Yeah, so I'm just gonna have a bit of a wander around now, and let's not stand into the sun. Right, so I hope you enjoyed that. Not sure what we're going to be doing next, just see what happens. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.